Hello and welcome to the Tradie Business School podcast, the only podcast you need to help grow your trades and contracting business. I'm joined by Miranda Hill today. How you doing, Miranda?
I am great.
And today we're going to be speaking about the trade debt collection process. So recently I shared a free tool into our free Facebook group called Trades and General Contractors Global, where every week we share tools and resources like this, scripts to help you to grow a more profitable, more systemized business. If you want a copy of this document we're going to be relating to today, just click on the link below and join our free Facebook group. But one thing we see a lot, Miranda, certainly with new clients when they come on board, is they're typically always owed a lot of money from their clients, right? Now, generally speaking, I meet a lot of tradies that are fantastic tradies, but aren't that good at growing their business, right? Because we've never been taught, which is fine. Yet finances and cash is the backbone of not just trades business, any business. And debt collection is something that I know as a tradie, I used to avoid doing. I used to avoid asking clients for money, which is crazy because I'd already done the work. But I avoided it until I would eventually do it and then find that it become awkward. It was a bit emotional. And many times I'd end up in disputes over money that was owed to me until I worked out what we're going to share in today's episode.
It's so true. Someone was mentioning the other day that they had followed parts of this process and they were surprised because someone paid them an invoice that was like 2 years old and they just paid it. Yet it shouldn't have ever got to that stage. And we're going to talk through a few of the steps that that you can go through. So there's a first element to this, isn't there? And to the process of debt collection, which is what happens before. Tell us a bit about that.
Absolutely. And, if you're a loyal listener or watcher, you would know that we did record a previous episode. I think it's called something like How to Get Paid on Time and in Full. Now, the difference is we kind of spoke a little bit in that episode around the psychology, whereas in this one, I want to speak about the systemology of the process. And as you mentioned, Miranda, there's kind of three key components. There's before, during, and after. And I guess we want to break that down because where a lot of tradies go wrong is they're focused on the after path. They're focused on when the money's owed to them. Now, what do I do? Do I hassle the client? Do I email them? Do I call them? And what we found is that 98% of tradies report having lost money due to clients failing to pay. 86% report having to send more than 5 reminders to get the overdue invoices. Now, the reason being is because they haven't got what I call as a front end loaded process. So this process is how do we front end load the conversation system in such a way that we're already training our clients to pay us on time. Now, there's an old saying that I generally say, Miranda, which is that we teach people how to treat us. Now, what do you do with that squeaky hinge, right? That hinge that's always squeaking on that door. What do you do with it?
What do you do with it? Yeah, wow. Do you want to stop it squeaking or do you ignore it? What do you do?
Well, you want to oil it.
Oil
Right?
it.
So what we want to become is we want to become that squeaky hinge to our clients, right? Now think about suppliers in your business right now. The ones that hassle you the most are probably the ones that when the cash comes and you pay first because you're sick of them hassling you. But again, we want to front end load the process so that we have a financial process in place rather than us chasing invoices. And so what that looks like straight off the bat is number one, you've got to have an agreement in place, right? This whole process starts with having an agreement, having predefined payment terms, and ensuring that your clients actually sign off on it, right? You talk them through the process, you show them the agreement, and they sign off on it, and they get given a copy of that.
Setting expectations so that anything that follows in the during and the after is not a surprise. It's almost like you've road mapped your way to that successful payment.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
I know every state and possibly country as well have different legislations.
Mm.
When I had my trades business, we were able to charge a 50% deposit on acceptance of quote, which generally, if you're running your numbers correctly, and we've got a calculator called the profit pricing calculator, again, it's in the Facebook group. If you're running your numbers correctly, that 50% deposit generally covers your outlay of materials and goods, right? Not so much labor, but it does cover materials and goods. I would then charge a 40% progress payment prior to turning up on site with the kitchen or the bathroom. At that point, they could view it in my factory. Now, that meant that at this point in time, I turned up on site, I was already paid up 90%. Now, again, I know that there's different rules for how much you can collect, especially if you work for builders. Builders often won't pay on payment terms, but it's important to have the most favorable payment terms in place as possible. So you're already mitigating risk before you go and outlay money on labor and on potential materials that you might not get back if the client, falls over or doesn't pay.
Yeah. And it's so important to get this in writing, as you said earlier, isn't it? To have this, have your payment process documented and shared, and how this gets signed off with a client. One of the mistakes so many trades do, they'll have an idea of their before or how they want it to work, but it's a loose verbal conversation. It's like, oh, I'm going to get a 50% deposit and then we'll book in the job. I had exactly that conversation yesterday with a fencing contractor I'm engaging in that, and that was how it rolled. Now, it was like, oh, I'll get you to pay 50%, and that was it. That was the conversation.
Yeah, which comes to step two, which is having clear and concise record keeping. Now, we're laying this, we're front end loading for two reasons. Number one is we're wanting to already create expectations of what we expect from the clients and for their part, right? They have as much responsibility in keeping up to their end of the deal as we do on delivering goods and service. But the second point is, should this or does this have to go to debt collection? You have everything in place to cover yourself to ensure that you have the highest possible chance of getting the money, right? So the second step is clear and concise record keeping. Like, your agreement needs to be valid and it clearly outlines terms and conditions of payment, debt collection, etc., etc. It's got to be signed by yourself and by the client, dated, delivered to them, and so forth. So again, having records, and where a lot of tradies get stung is when jobs start to blow out. The client comes along and is like, oh, John, by the way, while you're here, can you do that as well? And can you do that as well? And can you do that as well? Now, a lot of traders will just be like, yeah, sure, I'll go and do it, and I'll bang it on the bill at the end. No, you've got to quote that or give them a price, make an amendment to the job or the contract, and have it signed off before you even start doing that thing, unless you're willing to give it to them for free.
Yeah, that's where so many disputes begin. It's where so many of those unpaid invoices and questions, disputes, and this, you agreed to this, and it's mitigating against all of those things. And it's professional businessing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so the last part, the third step is the after.
Now, if you are watching this wherever you are, I'm going to share the screens. In this guide that you can get again in the Trades and General Contracting Global free Facebook group that we run, we'll put links around here. I've actually created a flow chart that takes you through step by step. Now, if you are watching this wherever you are, you'll see there's a lot of steps. It's actually not too much, but it's a logical and methodical order in which you can have one of your team members, someone in admin, heck, even a virtual assistant you hire from the Philippines or somewhere, follow this through step by step to ensure that you get paid. So we have a process that we go through for that, Miranda. But essentially, the next part of this is, again, is that if you're issuing a invoice for a progress payment, you want to issue the invoice, but I would be sending reminders before it's due, right? Before it's due. So you send the invoice maybe 7 days or 14 days before. You send a reminder saying, hey, Miranda, your invoice is coming up being due in 3 days' time. Please ensure before this date, you check it over. If you have any questions or queries, now is the time to let us know. Otherwise, we look forward to your prompt payment on Wednesday the 13th, right? Again, you're letting them know there's no wriggle room. Because how many times have you gone to a client's place or you've chased a client up and they're like, oh, I've got a query with the invoice 7 days, 14 days, 30 days after it's already due. So you want to eliminate those queries before the due date. And again, on the day of the due date, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, just a friendly reminder, your invoice is due today. We haven't heard from you, so we look forward to receiving receipt of payment by close of business today. Right? Again, you're being the squeaky hinge in a polite way and letting them know this is the expectations of working with your company. And to be honest, clients will respect you for having that clarity in place. And again, it doesn't have to be you that does this. Like if you follow the flow chart we have, any member of your team, your partner, a VA, a virtual assistant, can deploy this on your behalf.
It's and not all people want to dispute. The people that don't pay aren't always people that want to dispute or argue an invoice either. Sometimes life just gets in the way and they genuinely forget. It is just not on their radar. It is no longer urgent because the job's been done. Yet from a business owner's perspective, this is prevention rather than cure, isn't it?
Absolutely, 100%. And again, this is why a lot of tradies have such fluctuation in cash flow, because they're so busy doing quotes, and then they drop the quotes to do sales to bring work in. They drop the sales to go and deliver the job. And then all of a sudden it's like, I've got no more jobs waiting.
Yeah.
All right. We want to start to put in place systems that solve sore points in our business.
Yeah.
And majority of tradies have a sore point around receiving money that's owed to them. And it's a very simple system that won't take you very long to put in place. Again, you can delegate to a team member to ensure they execute this. And man, you will very much mitigate any possibility of you losing money now and in the long term.
Setting these things up and systems are the way. It may take longer in the beginning, and an hour to say. People often go, oh, it's going to take me 15 minutes to chase this thing, and the numbers of the time versus hours I'm sort of losing in this point. But the idea is, would you much rather invest an hour or two now to save you hours tenfold in the future, and plus the stress, the hassle, and the inconsistent cash flow and the impacts that have on your business, versus the 15 minutes here and there chasing every individual invoice? You think hands-on doing that, whether it's you or admin staff, it is still a cost to your business to manually chase chase these things afterwards. So systemization and the prevention rather than cure.
Absolutely. And the cool thing too is it removes the emotion, right? It becomes part of daily operations. There's no emotion around it. It just is what it is. Everything's clearly agreed upon. There's methodical steps in place. It removes the emotion and ensures that you do get paid on time and in full, and ensures that you can build a profitable business that's not robbing Paul to play Peter. So, if this is something that appeals to you, click the link below, join our free Facebook group, Trades and General Contracts Global. It's in there as one of the guides. Download it. Just rip it off. Like, we've got templates in there. If it does have to go to debt collection, what are the emails that you send? Just rip it off. I've already done it for you. It works. And it won't even take you an hour to put it in place.
Yeah, so good, so good. I think that's it. Nice, short and punchy, and yet hugely effective.